Business and Stephen, starting off once again in Japan today. The government there is set to announce, Stephen, new plans to help boost the economy.
It's going to be a package worth 28 trillion yen, or around $265 billion. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced the size of the plan last week, saying that funds would be used to upgrade port facilities and speed up investment in new maglev high-speed train line. But other details remain sketchy. They're being presented to Cabinet today. But this is the 26th fiscal stimulus plan Japan has seen since 1990. The aim of all of them has been to shore up the world's third largest economy, but their effect, at least in recent years, under current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, has been limited. This is the picture for Japanese growth since 2011. You can see 3 separate recessions there in the past 5 years. Now, this time around, the concern is the Brexit vote and the resulting strengthening of the Japanese yen that's provoking another round of stimulus in Japan. More details on that later in the day.
Markets reacting to that, I assume?
Japanese shares actually closed down by over 1% in Tokyo ahead of the announcement of details of that package of stimulus measures. We had falls too on the ASX 200 in Sydney. That's after a decision by the Australian Central Bank to cut interest rates to a record low of 1.5%. No trading today in Hong Kong. The markets there closed because of the typhoon. In Europe today, shares opening down at the start of the trading session by about 1/4%. Banks among the fallers today. Just one example, UniCredit in Italy down by around 1.8%. Its shares had been down heavily yesterday after the results of the bank stress tests.
Let's talk South Korea now. Regulators there, they've taken drastic action. This is over the emissions cheating scandal at Volkswagen.
Authorities in the country have suspended the sale of almost all models of Volkswagen cars as part of a widening investigation into the scandal. 83,000 VW and Audi cars are being affected by the ban. The car maker has been fined another $16 million, bringing total penalties to almost $29 million. The Environment Ministry says that VW fabricated documents to get certification for its cars in the Korean market. Authorities in Seoul have been pursuing the German company particularly aggressively over the scandal, arresting a senior executive at the firm last month. It's already forced Volkswagen to recall more than 125,000 diesel cars last year.
Going to talk Air France now. It's counting the cost, really, of the week-long strike by cabin crew. It actually ends today, though, doesn't it?
Yes, the airline's chief executive says it's cost them tens of millions of euros. Around 90% of Air France flights will operate today. It's the final day of the stoppage, but unions say that more than 210,000 passengers were affected by the strike action. Cabin crew are unhappy with the proposed agreement on working conditions, which will apply for only 17 months as opposed to the usual 5 years. Air France boss Frédéric Gagey says that the strike shouldn't have happened.
There's a working system for social dialogue and it needs to conform to some rules. There are no decisions to take quickly, nothing's being brought forward by the company managers in the coming weeks. Why create conflict in the middle of summer? Especially at a time which, for our passengers, for all French people, has been a difficult few months since the beginning of 2016. To decide to act now when there are no emergencies nor management ultimatums is not very understandable.
Some more of the day's business headlines for you now. Profits at Germany's Commerzbank fell by almost 1/3 in the 3 months to the end of June. The country's second largest lender earned €209 million as it copes with persistently low interest rates. Commerzbank expects to report lower profits for the full year as a result of political uncertainty and policies adopted by the European Central Bank. Shares in Commerzbank opening down 2% in Frankfurt. The German airline Lufthansa says the recent terror attacks in Europe have had a tangible impact on its business. Profits at the carrier fell by 17% in the second quarter. Lufthansa's boss says bookings for long-haul services to Europe are down significantly and warned that its full-year earnings would be lower as a result. Better news though at BMW, where sales and profits rose to a record high in the 3 months to the end of June. Net profits up 11% to almost €2 billion. Sales in its 3 core brands, BMW, Mini and Rolls-Royce, were up by over 5%.
Now finally from Stephen, space tourism could be back on the cards. This is after a decision by the authorities in the US.
Yes, Richard Branson's plan to fly passengers to the edge of space is back on track. America's Federal Aviation Administration has approved plans for his company Virgin Galactic to resume testing its rocket plane. This coming some 20 months after a high-profile crash of its spaceship, which had raised questions about the future of the programme, but they're going to get Spaceship 2 back in the skies and getting closer to space.
Yeah, he sort of got closer to space, didn't he? Standing there with like that, waving his arms at the top of the vehicle.
I think it's more dramatic.
It is
what they're planning.
Yeah, a little bit more up in the air rather than out and about. Okay, Stephen, you're on with business.